Well, it's a case we brought you 6 weeks ago as jury selection got underway, and now there's a verdict. Chad Daybell is guilty of killing his first wife and the two children of his second wife. It's a sentence making headlines across the country. And joining us again this week for the Legal Lowdown is Lori Murray, who you might recognize as Lawyer Lori on TikTok. So, Lori, can you remind us who Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow are?
Yeah, Chad and Lori Daybell are two people who got involved in this Church of Latter-day Saints, but took it to a new extreme when Chad Daybell decided that he was the prophet who is designed and appointed, anointed by God to take the people who survived doomsday or the apocalypse or whatever you want to call it and lead them into a new civilization. And he decided that Lori was to be his wife and partner in that endeavor.
I know we've talked about Lori in the past. She thought her kids were zombies, thought they were the devil inside them, and she ultimately was found guilty earlier this year in a separate trial. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. What are some moments that stood out to you during Chad's trial, since I know they were separate trials?
Yeah, and I think it's really important to remember that these two people got together and decided that other people were in their way. So they removed these people, her two children, his ex-wife. They were all impediments to their being together. And in this trial, the biggest thing that stood out to me were these text messages between the two of them that I had not seen before. But it really showed that Chad was in charge and Lori was kind of following along. She's asking him questions about the death percentages of the kids and other people. He talks about zapping people with evil and pain so that they would, kind of jump in line. But they really were talking about these death percentages. And when they got to either 0 or 100, that's the closer they were to death. JJ especially was close to death during this entire time. And it really did show that Chad was the one who was putting these ideas in Lori's head, and Lori fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Maybe she had some mental illness. Maybe she wanted to believe it. Either way, he was the leader in this little criminal enterprise that they had.
Yeah, JJ and Tylee were Lori's children who were missing before their bodies were eventually found. Now, I know the jury found Chad guilty and they have sentenced him to death. Did this surprise you?
No, this is, take the religion out of it. I think that what's a little bit difficult to believe is that this all involves religion. But when you take religion out of it, you have a man who falls for a woman, who kills his ex or his current wife to be with the other woman, and then kills her two children too. So this is a horrible crime. And yes, there's a lot of crazy about it surrounding this religion and the religious aspects of it. But at the heart of this, we have a dead current wife and two dead children. So no, it does not surprise me the jury was able to move past the crazy and get to the heart of the crime.
And why do you think Chad got the death penalty while Lori got life in prison?
Well, prosecutors wanted to seek the death penalty against Lori as well, but there was some discovery abuse there. There was a whole bunch of documents that were not turned over to the defense team until late in the game. So they asked the judge to take the death penalty for Lori off the table. The prosecution asked for a continuance, but Lori had not waived her right to a speedy trial, so they could not get that continuance. So the judge is the one who took the death penalty off the table for Lori.
And what was Chad's response when he learned that he would be sentenced to death?
Not a thing. I think he was very stoic. He didn't say a word, kept his hands in his lap and his head straight forward.
One thing that I know has kind of surprised me throughout this whole trial was that Chad's children from his first marriage really stood by his side as he faced these charges. They supported their dad. They claimed his innocence. So have they spoken out since this verdict came down?
I would say yes, it surprised me too, but I have not seen anything where they have spoken out. They were vocal during the trial. They gave an interview prior to the trial. They did stand by him. They said that their mom was sickly. They said that they were with their dad that morning. He was very upset, visibly shaken. And, one of the things was that he asked for no autopsy for Tammy, his current wife, their mother. They said that he let them make the decision, and that why would somebody who was guilty of killing their spouse allow the children to make the decision? I don't know how true that is. I think that their stories changed a lot in this during this time period. But yeah, that is a lot of support from children whose mother is dead.
And Lori, what's the process like from here? Because I'm sure there are plenty of appeals.
Yeah, they're mandatory appeals. You have an automatic post-conviction relief, and then you file the actual appeals too. It could go all the way up to the Supreme Court if the Supreme Court finds that there's something in there to hear. I doubt that will. It'll probably go to the state Supreme Court. It will take months, if not a couple of years, to get to the appellate process.
Well, this is something that we will stay on top of then. Of course, thanks so much for joining us again this week and offering your insight. You can tune in every Wednesday for the Legal Lowdown with Lori Murray right here on the Midday News. And to keep up to date with this case and other cases across the country that you should know about, just give @LawyerLori a follow on TikTok.
And now,